So I said how Apostle John would have had children, given that he lived till 100. Again, he was the apostle they couldn't kill. And Jesus never said they had to be celibate. The Catholic Church just wanted people to believe that so that you would think that none of them had children, would have had children that carried the legacy. Okay? However, it lacks complete logic to believe that Apostle John, who they couldn't kill, lived to 100 and didn't have children. No, he did. However, back in his day, they didn't have last names. They usually were identified with the area they were from. Well, Apostle John, he wasn't from Ephesus. I mean, that's where he spent much of his life later, but it wasn't his home. So especially his children, and you may think, oh, he would have wrote about it. No, he wouldn't have. God had him write about the book of Revelation, so you already know the beast there is going to try to deceive everyone. God wouldn't have wanted him to write any of that. Even if he did, they would have hid it. But I don't think God would have wanted him to write about it. God would have just planned to tell those that listened to the shepherd's voice, he would give it to them. So it only makes sense he would have had children. And there are some early apocryphals, is that how you say it? Am I saying that right? That mention that they thought he had a wife at one time. But see, the Catholic Church, everywhere it goes, it comes in and changes shit, okay? Like, here's the thing. In Ireland and Scotland, Christianity was there long before the Catholic Church got there. They got there in like the 4th and 5th century. And it was already there, but it wasn't to their standards. So they had to institutionalize it and organize it just to F it up. Because what did they have in Ireland and Scotland? They had a community of Christians, which is exactly what him and the apostles were doing. Again, not some big building, any big structure, doing house to house, doing community. But the Catholic Church, everywhere it goes, and then it pillages everybody's land and steals stuff. That's why right now they've been having the past, 7 years to have to start giving back things that they've stolen from people. So you think that's a legit church? You think God would want to be identified with that? No, he said you will know them by their fruits for a reason. So, back to John. What name would he have his children take on? Or what name would God tell his children? Because he would have given all of his wisdom that he had received from God, he would have given to his children. He would have them take on the last name since they didn't have last Christian, right? Such as like King Christian the First, who was king of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. Okay? This is King Christian the First. Another picture of Christian the First. But let's move forward, okay? So 15th century. But let's move even more ahead to this young lady, Elizabeth Christ. This is Donald Trump's grandmother when she was a little girl, when she was a young girl. Elizabeth Christ. Her parents were Philip Christ, and he Philip Christ was the father of Elizabeth Christ. She went on to become Trump, Elizabeth Christ Trump. Okay, she married Frederick Trump. So it was common back then for them to make the mother's maiden name into a middle name for one of their children. So Donald Trump's dad, his name is Frederick Christ Trump. He had Christ as his middle name because that was her maiden name. And her parents her dad was Philip Christ. And Philip Christ was the son of Johann George Christ, born around 1820, who married Sabina Christina Hartung. They were vintners, which means they had a winery. Of course they did. You know, because it's all about the trees and the branches and what fruit it's producing. You know, because of how much Jesus talked about like what's the tree doing? This was a picture I found, or a painting of Johann George Christ. Yeah. So there's just too many coincidences. There just is. I mean, and then you look at Apostle John, they couldn't kill him. They can't kill Trump. I mean, they've tried 11 times. 4 that have been officially recorded. So it only makes sense that, even though, yes, all the other apostles, they died, obviously, martyred deaths, John did not. He lived till like 100, almost 100. Somewhere around there, 100 years old, at 100 AD. So, I think what the logical conclusion is that he did have children. It carried on. What would they identify as their last name? Christian or Christ. And that would just be carried on. Makes sense. And given that in Ireland and Scotland, they already had Christianity before the damn Vatican came through. Oh, I get so mad because they caused the most problems in the world. They really did. And I think even some of these people, they were very welcoming to it. Oh, sure, yes, you're Christian too. You know, like that's how most people would be, not realizing what they were really up to. I prayed many times to God. I'm like, but God, maybe it was good. And nope. So I will follow the Holy Spirit of God. Just will. But that's just been the carryover of the Roman Empire. I think they probably even knew that John. I mean, they were killing heresy wherever the Holy Spirit was. That's what the Roman Catholic Church was doing with its inquisitions. Okay. They knew that is how people were receiving God. They knew God was giving that light of fire in people. So, however, to bring it all together to someday be able to be like, you can't refute any of it. You're a false church. It would need to come through a line. It would. I think so. And I think there's just too many coincidences to all this, especially given that both Apostle John and Donald John Trump, seem to be doing right by God. Like somebody on my YouTube channel was saying, they tried to kill Fidel Castro 600 times. It's like, yeah, I don't think he was really trying to do anything on the good side of anything, okay? And I don't believe 600, like that's just whatever. No. There's something unique about Donald Trump and Apostle John, both. Most especially when it comes to that God seems to have a hand of protection over them. Yes. Because God has an active role in this world, as I say. So, Jesus' life carried on.